The ruins weren't supposed to have a heartbeat. They were only stone and soot, broken arches, and a wind that whistled through empty windows like a mouth missing teeth. The war had chewed this place down to its bones and spat the bones back out, scattered across the hillside for crows to perch on. Yet when Garrick Vale crested the ridge, he heard something that didn't belong. A sob, not loud, not dramatic. A small, exhausted sound like someone trying to swallow pain and failing. Garrick paused. His boots sank into ash-gray dust. His hand moved by habit to the hilt at his side. The blade had been cleaned twice since yesterday and still smelled faintly of iron. He scanned the ruins, eyes narrowing against the pale afternoon glare. Broken towers leaned like tired giants. A toppled statue lay face down, its marble fingers clawing at dirt as if it had tried to crawl away from the flames. The sob came again, closer now, behind a collapsed wall draped in ivy that had somehow survived the fire. Garrick exhaled slowly. No birds, he noted, no rats, not even flies, only that sound. He stepped forward. The wall's shadow hit her at first, then his eyes adjusted and he saw the curve of green skin against gray stone, like moss growing where moss shouldn't. She sat with her back to a cracked pillar, knees hugged to her chest. Her shoulders shook in careful, contained tremors. Her hair, black and coarse, fell in tangled ropes around her face. One tusk gleamed faintly where the sunlight caught it, and the other was chipped as if it had been struck once too hard. An orc, a young one, not a child but not fully hardened either, maybe late teens by human count if his guesses were right. Her clothes were wrong for a warrior, thin, patched, dusty, like they'd been scavenged from a dozen places. Around her neck hung a strip of braided leather that might have once held a badge or clan token, but it was empty now. No weapon, no pack, no companions. Only tears and ruins. Garrick didn't move for a moment. He'd seen orcs on battlefields, roaring, charging, swinging axes as wide as wagon wheels. He'd watched them fall and crawl and spit curses in their own rough tongue. He'd hated them once, but this one wasn't roaring. She was trying not to be seen. Garrick took another step, slow enough that the stones wouldn't crunch too loudly. Still, her head snapped up like a startled deer. Yellow eyes locked onto him. Her tears stopped instantly. The air changed. Her whole body tightened, every muscle pulling toward flight, but she didn't run. Pride pinned her to the stone. Fear sharpened her gaze. "You should keep walking," she said. Her voice was hoarse from crying, and her accent carried hard consonants like stones in a river. Garrick didn't answer right away. He kept his hand away from his sword. He made himself stand with open shoulders, palms loose at his sides. "I heard you," he said, because it was true. Her eyes narrowed. "Then you heard wrong." Garrick looked past her at the shattered columns, the scorch marks, the long black smear across the ground where something big had burned. "This place used to be a town," he said. "It was a town," she corrected, flat and bitter. "Now it's proof." "Proof of what?" She barked, a short laugh without humor. "That nothing stays safe, that promises are smoke, that when you believe you belong somewhere, the world laughs and reminds you you're wrong." Garrick felt that line land in his ribs like a thrown rock. He knew that feeling. He felt it with a different face in a different uniform. He should have left. His patrol route wasn't supposed to include ruined settlements. Command had said, watch the roads, keep stragglers from looting, escort refugees if needed, no unnecessary risks. And a lone orc in war-torn ruins counted as a risk, but he didn't move away. "What's your name?" he asked. The orc's jaw clenched. "None." Garrick's brow lifted. "None. I don't have one." She wiped her cheek with the heel of her hand, furious that tears had dared to show. Not anymore. He didn't like the way she said it, like a name could be torn off like a cloak. "That's not how names work," Garrick said. The orc's eyes flashed. "That's how exile works." Exile? The word made the air colder. Garrick took a careful step nearer, stopping well outside arm's reach. "Why were you exiled?" Her gaze flicked to his sword. "So you can take the story back to your camp. So your friends can laugh at the pathetic orc girl who cried." "I'm not here to laugh," Garrick said. "Then why are you here?" she snapped, her voice cracked at the end, betraying how raw she was. Garrick opened his mouth. He didn't know exactly. He could say duty, he could say curiosity, he could say pity, but that would be an insult, so he said the truest thing he had. "Because you're alone," he said, the orc's face hardened like set clay. "Alone is safer." Garrick's eyes drifted to her hands. Her knuckles were scraped. There was dried blood under her nails, not battle blood, more like someone who'd climbed over rocks and broken things with bare hands. "You've been out here a while," he said. She didn't answer. "You have food?" he asked. Her nostrils flared. "I'm not begging." "I didn't ask if you were begging," Garrick said evenly. "I asked if you have food." Her silence was answer enough. Garrick reached into his pack slowly, making sure she could see every motion. He pulled out a wrapped piece of hard bread and a strip of smoked meat. He held them out, not stepping closer, just offering. The orc stared at the food like it was a trap. Poison? She asked. If I wanted you dead, Garrick said, I wouldn't waste good meat. Something flickered in her eyes, surprise maybe, then suspicion slammed back into place. I won't owe you, she said. You won't, Garrick replied. Take it or don't. A long moment passed. The wind pushed ash across the ground, whispering between broken stones. Finally, slowly, she reached out. Her fingers trembled not from weakness but from the effort of choosing. She snatched the food and pulled it into her lap like she expected him to lunge. Garrick didn't move. She tore into the bread first, chewing too fast. Hunger made beasts of everyone, no matter the skin they wore. When she finished the first mouthful, she stared at him again, wary, chewing slower now. Why, she said, swallowing, are you not afraid? Garrick's gaze drifted to the ruins. I am. That confused her, her ears small and pointed, tilted slightly. Then why are you still standing there? She demanded. Garrick shrugged. Because fear isn't always a reason to run, sometimes it's a reason to be careful. She studied him like he was a puzzle missing pieces. You're a soldier, she said, as if it explained everything. I was, Garrick corrected, her brow furrowed. Was. He tapped the insignia on his shoulder, stitched, faded, half-torn. War ends, men go home, or they try to. She let out a rough breath. Home? It sounded like a curse. Garrick watched her expression shift, and he realized something. She wasn't just crying because she was hungry or lost. She was grieving something bigger. Tell me about the exile, Garrick said softly. The orc girl stiffened again. No, Garrick nodded, accepting. All right. He turned his gaze away on purpose, looking toward the toppled statue. He sat down on a stone a few paces away, deliberately giving her space. He didn't take his eyes off the horizon for long. He pretended to check his bootstraps, to adjust his pack. He gave her time to decide whether his presence was threat or something else. She chewed the meat slowly now, and in the silence her breathing steadied. After a while she spoke again, voice quieter. Humans burn our villages, she said. Garrick didn't argue. Sometimes. Orcs raid your caravans, she continued. Sometimes, he echoed. She swallowed. So why is a human sitting in orc ruins feeding an orc? Garrick's jaw tightened. He thought of the battlefield at Blackridge where he dragged a wounded enemy soldier into cover because leaving him would have felt like murder. He thought of his commander screaming, they'd never do the same for you. Maybe that was true, maybe it was. But Garrick remembered the wounded man's eyes, wide, disbelieving human eyes, and how when Garrick offered water the man cried the way this orc girl had cried, quietly, like it hurt too much to be loud. I don't know, Garrick admitted. Maybe I'm tired of the easy stories. The orc girl's gaze sharpened. Easy stories. Orcs are monsters. Humans are invaders. Everyone picks a side and pretends it makes sense. Garrick rubbed a thumb over the edge of his canteen. But you're sitting here crying like any person would. Her lips curled slightly. Orcs are people now, Garrick met her gaze. You always were, we just hated that truth because it made killing harder. That landed like an arrow. Her eyes widened, then narrowed again, but her anger had lost some of its bite. You speak like you've killed, she said. I have, Garrick replied. He didn't look away. I've also saved, and I still don't know which one weighs more. The orc girl studied him, and for the first time Garrick saw exhaustion behind the suspicion. Exhaustion so deep it had soaked into her bones. My name was Rika, she said suddenly, like the word forced itself out of her. Before they took it. Garrick's chest tightened. Rika, he repeated gently. She flinched as if hearing it hurt. Don't say it like it's soft. It's just a name, Garrick said. It's a promise, she whispered fiercely. A clan name is a promise. When you're born, the elder ties your name to your spirit. It means you belong and your blood has a place. Her hands clenched around the empty leather braid at her neck. They cut it. They said my spirit was unclean, Garrick frowned. Why? Rika's eyes flicked away down to the dirt. Because I wouldn't do what they demanded. What did they demand? She swallowed. The word came out like a shard of glass. I was told to prove loyalty, to kill a prisoner. Garrick's breath stopped. He'd heard rumors. Orc trials, loyalty rites, but hearing it in a girl's voice in ruins made it real in a way campfire stories never were. A human prisoner? He asked, though he already suspected. Rika gave a tiny nod. A young man, not even a soldier, a messenger maybe. He was terrified. He kept saying he had a sister. Her jaw trembled and she forced it still. They handed me the blade. Everyone watched. Garrick's hands tightened on his knees. And you didn't, he said. I couldn't, she whispered. Not because he was human, because he was helpless. Garrick stared at her, seeing something new, not weakness, but strength of a different kind, the kind that didn't make songs, the kind that got you exiled. They called me traitor, Rikat continued. They said if I wouldn't spill human blood, I didn't deserve orc breath. She laughed, broken. So now I sit in dead stones crying like a pup. Garrick's throat felt tight. He imagined his own commanders the way they'd cheered when prisoners were executed to set an example. Different uniforms, same hunger for obedience. You saved him? Garrick asked. Rikat hesitated. I cut his bonds, I told him to run. Garrick let out a slow breath. Then you did the right thing. Rikat's eyes snapped back to him. There is no right thing, only what gets you killed slower. Garrick reached into his pack again and pulled out his canteen, holding it out. Drink. She took it, and this time her hand didn't shake as much. As she drank, Garrick studied the ruins again, alert. If she'd helped a prisoner escape, her clan might have sent hunters. Exile didn't always mean go live quietly. Sometimes it meant run until you die. Rikat handed the canteen back and wiped her mouth. They'll come, she said, reading his thoughts. They always come. Garrick's gaze sharpened. How long ago? 2 days, she said. I ran until my feet bled. I hid in gullies. I slept under roots. Her eyes dulled. Then I found this place. Why here? Garrick asked. Rikat glanced around, expression strange, like reverence mixed with sorrow, because it was where the human boy said he came from. Garrick's stomach dropped. This was his home, Rikat nodded once. He described a fountain shaped like a horse, a baker who threw bread at children when they stole, a bell tower that rang at sunrise. Her gaze flicked to the cracked remains of a stone horse near the center of the ruins. I wanted to see if he lied. Garrick followed her gaze and saw it, the shattered fountain, the stone horse broken at the neck, so the boy hadn't lied. Rikat's voice was small now. He ran back to nothing. Garrick's mind flashed to refugees he'd escorted past burned villages, to children staring at ash piles where their homes had been. Sometimes, Garrick said, voice rough, people run back because the place still holds memory. Rikat's lips pressed together. Her eyes shimmered again and she turned her face away quickly, angry with herself for crying. Garrick stood slowly. Rikat tensed. What are you doing? Listening, Garrick said. She frowned. To what? Garrick held up a finger and closed his eyes. There, in the distance, faint, rhythmic, like a drumbeat, footsteps, not one person, several. Rikat's breath caught. No, she whispered. Garrick opened his eyes. Calm settled over him like a cloak, the familiar cold focus of someone who'd survived too many ambushes. How many? He asked. Rikat swallowed. 3, maybe 4. They move like wolves. Garrick nodded. Stay here, don't move. Rikat's eyes widened. Stay, are you? Her voice cracked. Are you going to fight them for me? Garrick hesitated. Fighting orcs alone was a good way to die. Fighting orcs for an orc was a stranger way to die. But he pictured the young messenger running through smoke to find his home gone. He pictured Rikat cutting his bonds anyway. He didn't know her. He didn't owe her. But she'd already paid a price for mercy. Garrick checked his sword, then glanced at a broken archway nearby. If they see you, they'll drag you back, or worse. Rikat's jaw clenched. I can fight. With what? Garrick asked, eyes flicking to her empty hands. Her shoulders sagged a fraction. She hated being helpless more than she feared dying. Garrick pointed toward a narrow gap behind a collapsed wall. There's a crawl space. Get in, stay quiet. Rikat stared at him, eyes fierce. Why? Garrick gave her the simplest answer. Because you deserve a chance to keep your name. She flinched again, then nodded sharply and slipped into the gap, her movements quick despite exhaustion. Garrick stepped toward the open center of the ruins, positioning himself where he could see the approaches. He moved like someone who knew how to become part of broken stone. The footsteps grew louder. Then the first orc appeared between 2 shattered pillars, tall, broad-shouldered, with a spear and a scar across one eye. His armor was patched leather and iron rings. Behind him came another, then another, 3 just as Rikat had said. They moved with purpose, noses lifted, sniffing the air. The scarred one saw Garrick and stopped dead. For a moment no one moved. A human soldier standing alone in ruins was unexpected. A gift maybe. The second orc snarled. Human. Garrick kept his stance, relaxed but ready. You're far from your camp. The scarred orc's lips peeled back, showing tusks thick as daggers. We track a traitor. Garrick didn't react. Traitor? A she-orc, the third orc spat. Weak, soft, broke the right. Garrick's gaze stayed steady. And you think she came here? The scarred orc's eyes narrowed, assessing. Why would a human care? Garrick almost laughed. Because he'd seen too much, that's why. Because the world didn't get better unless someone did something inconvenient. Instead, he said, because I don't want blood in these ruins. The second orc snorted. This place already has blood. Human blood? Garrick's jaw tightened. Then add yours somewhere else. The orc shifted, annoyed now. The scarred one took a step forward, spear lowering. "You are alone," he said, voice like gravel. "Move aside, or you will die here with the town you failed to protect." Garrick felt that line strike deep. Failed to protect. He'd been stationed 2 valleys away when this town burned. Orders had kept him on the road, guarding supply lines while civilians died in smoke behind him. He told himself it wasn't his fault. The ruins disagreed. Garrick drew his sword. Steel slid from scabbard with a sound like a warning bell. "I'm tired," he said quietly, "of watching people punish mercy." The scarred orc's expression shifted, not fear but respect mixed with contempt. "Human has spine," he growled. "Good, I will hang it on my spear." They lunged. Garrick moved first, not waiting to be surrounded. He stepped into the scarred orc's line, deflecting the spear with the flat of his blade, letting the momentum carry the weapon past him. He pivoted, driving his shoulder into the orc's chest. The orc staggered back. The second orc came from the side, swinging an axe. Garrick dropped low, the axe whistling over his head, then rose with a slash that caught the orc's forearm. Blood sprayed dark against pale dust. The orc roared, stumbling. The third orc circled, looking for an opening, eyes calculating. Garrick's breath came fast. Orcs were stronger than men, heavier, built for brutal impact. He couldn't win a prolonged brawl, so he fought like water, slipping, redirecting, cutting where it mattered. The scarred orc recovered and thrust again. Garrick sidestepped, grabbed the shaft of the spear with his left hand, ignoring the sting of splinters, and yanked. The orc resisted, but Garrick used the tug to pull the orc off balance and drove his sword upward, grazing the orc's ribs. The blade didn't go deep enough. The armor stopped it. Garrick hissed. The scarred orc slammed his head forward. Pain exploded in Garrick's forehead. He stumbled back, vision blurring. The second orc, wounded but furious, swung again. Garrick barely raised his sword in time. The impact jarred his arms, numbing them. His boots slid on dust. The third orc moved behind him now. Too late, Garrick realized. A weight slammed into his back. He fell hard, wind knocked from his lungs. The axe rose above him, shadowing the sun. Garrick lifted his sword for a final block. A sound split the air, a sharp, feral cry. From the shadows behind the collapsed wall, Rika burst out like a storm. She held a broken piece of pillar in both hands, heavy as a club. Her eyes blazed with something wild. Fear turned into rage, turned into refusal. She slammed the stone into the third orc's skull. Crack. The orc dropped like a felled tree, blood spraying. The wounded second orc turned, shocked. Rika swung again, striking his knee. He collapsed with a howl. The scarred orc froze, staring at her, realization spreading across his face. "Rika," he snarled, like the name itself tasted bitter. "You dare show your face?" Rika's chest heaved. Tears streaked her cheeks again, but her hands didn't tremble now. "I never stopped being me," she spat. "You just decided you didn't like what me looked like." The scarred orc raised his spear, eyes murderous. "You broke the right, you freed prey." "Shamed? I spared a helpless boy," Rika cut in. "If that is shame, then your honor is rot." Garrick pushed himself up, breathing hard. Blood ran down his brow into his eye. He wiped it away, blinking. He saw Rika standing between him and the hunter, stone club raised. A thin, starving, exiled girl facing a trained killer. And he realized she hadn't just been crying for herself. She'd been crying because the world had demanded she become cruel, and she'd said no. The scarred orc lunged at her. Garrick moved on instinct, throwing himself forward, sword flashing. He struck the spear shaft, knocking it aside, then stepped in and drove his shoulder into the scarred orc's ribs again. The orc grunted, staggered, but stayed upright. Rika swung her stone, catching the orc's elbow. Bone cracked. The spear dropped. The scarred orc roared, grabbed for Rika's throat with his good hand. Rika tried to dodge, but he was faster. Fingers closed around her neck. She gasped, eyes wide. Garrick's world narrowed. He drove his sword forward, not into the orc's heart. He didn't have the angle, but into the thigh deep. The scarred orc bellowed and released Rika, staggering back, clutching his leg. Garrick yanked the blade free, blood poured, the orc's eyes burned with hatred. "You choose her," he hissed, spitting blood. "You human choose an orc traitor." Garrick didn't flinch. "I choose mercy." The scarred orc's lips curled. "Mercy gets you killed." Then he did something Garrick didn't expect. He turned. Not to flee forever, but to retreat, grabbing the wounded second orc by the collar and dragging him toward the trees. "We will return," the scarred one growled over his shoulder. "And when we do, we will take her head and yours." He vanished into the brush, leaving the third hunter dead in the dust and the second limping, half-carried. Silence rushed back in, thick and sudden. Rika stood frozen, hands still gripping the stone. Her breathing came in ragged gasps, then her legs buckled. Garrick caught her before she hit the ground. She clung to his sleeve like it was the only solid thing in the world, and the sob finally tore out of her loud and raw like a wound opening. "I didn't want to come out," she choked. "I didn't want you to die." Garrick lowered himself to sit on a fallen beam, holding her steady. His arms shook, partly from pain, partly from the aftershock of nearly being chopped in half. "You saved me," he said, Rikaz's face twisted. "Now they'll never stop." Garrick looked around the ruins, at the broken fountain, at the stone horse, at ashen memory. "They were never going to stop," he said quietly. "Not if you keep running alone." Rikaz pulled back, eyes searching his face. "What are you saying?" Garrick wiped blood from his brow again. "I'm saying you need somewhere to go, somewhere they can't easily find you." Rikaz gave a bitter laugh. "There is nowhere. I have no clan." Garrick hesitated. The next words felt like stepping off a cliff. "I know a place," he said. Rikaz stared. "A human place." "Yes," her expression hardened instantly. "Your people will kill me." "Not all of them," Garrick said, "and the ones who try will have to answer to me." Rikaz's eyes narrowed. "Why would they listen to you?" Garrick's jaw tightened. "Because I still have friends, and because I know what it looks like when a person chooses mercy and gets punished for it." Rikaz swallowed. "They'll call you traitor too," Garrick shrugged. "They already do in softer words." For a moment, Rikaz looked like she might laugh again, but the sound didn't come. Her gaze dropped to the empty leather braid at her neck. "They took my name," she whispered. Garrick reached into his pack and pulled out a small strip of cloth, clean enough though frayed. It was once part of his old uniform sash. He'd kept it out of habit, out of superstition, out of not knowing how to throw away pieces of himself. He held it out. Rikaz stared at it. "What is that?" "Not a clan token," Garrick said. "Not a promise from an elder, but something." He paused, feeling oddly awkward. "A reminder." "A reminder of what?" she asked. "That your spirit isn't something they can cut away," Garrick replied. Rikaz's throat bobbed. She reached out slowly and took the cloth, her fingers pressed into it like she was testing whether it was real. "You don't even know me," she whispered. "I know enough," Garrick said. "You refuse to become cruel. That tells me more than 100 war stories." Rikaz's eyes shimmered again. This time she didn't turn away. "What happens now?" she asked. Garrick stood, offering his hand. "Now," he said, "we leave before more hunters come, and we walk until those ruins are behind us." Rikaz stared at his hand like it was a bridge across a chasm. Then she took it. Her grip was strong despite her shaking, her palm rough and warm. Garrick pulled her to her feet. She stood a little unsteadily, but she stood. They moved through the ruins together, stepping past broken stone and ash. Garrick kept scanning the tree line, listening for movement. Rikaz stayed close, not because she feared him now, but because she understood what was coming. At the edge of the ruined town, Rikaz paused and looked back. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows through shattered archways. For a second, the ruins looked almost peaceful, like they were only sleeping. Rikaz's voice was barely audible. The boy said there was a bell tower that rang at sunrise. Garrick followed her gaze to the shattered tower, its bell cracked and fallen. "It won't ring again," he said. Rikaz nodded slowly. "No," she turned away from it, shoulders straightening, but then she spoke again, and this time her voice carried something new. "Garrick," she said. He blinked. "How do you know my name?" Rikaz touched the torn insignia on his shoulder. "It's stitched, and you forgot to hide it." Garrick huffed a short laugh. "So I did." Rikaz looked up at him, eyes fierce in the fading light. "If you take me to your people," she said, "I will not bow. I will not pretend to be small." Garrick nodded. "Good," Rikaz swallowed. "And if they try to take my life," Garrick's hand rested on his sword hilt, not as a threat but as a promise. "Then they'll learn what it means when a soldier is tired of easy stories." Rikaz's lips pressed together, holding something back. Finally, she gave a single, sharp nod. They started down the hillside, leaving the ruins behind. The wind rose again, sweeping ash into the air. It danced in the sunlight like pale snow, swirling around the broken fountain and the fallen horse statue. And for the first time since she'd sat alone crying against cracked stone, Rikaz walked forward without looking like she expected the world to strike her for it. Behind them, the ruins stayed silent. But ahead, somewhere past the road, past the next valley, past the next fear, there was the possibility of a different ending. Not an easy one, but a true one.